Hi everyone, welcome back to Road to Global. This video is going to be about anchoring a site. I'll be covering what a site anchor is, some principles behind the role, and some of the practicalities to do with the scenarios that you'll find yourself in if you're playing as a site anchor. A site anchor is the last player who remains on a bomb site once the rest of the team has rotated to the other side of the map. For example, on Inferno, we could have two players B, two players A, and we cheat a player over from B to A because we have a read. Then there'll be one player left on B and he'll be the anchor. The goal of the anchor is not necessarily to hold or anything, it's just to maximize his team's chances of winning the round. This can be done in several ways, but for the most part, you're going to be trying to buy time for your team to rotate. As an anchor, you can buy time in two main ways, the first of which is to stop the enemy team from getting into the site. This can be done by blocking off the choke point with a smoke. For example, here, you can smoke like this while you're holding, or throwing a Molotov when they're ready to execute, or a combination of the two. Your team will be on the other side of the map, so you're just trying to slow them down enough for us to have this info that they're trying to hit this site, and we're going to rotate back in. A second option is that if they are pushing in quite fast, so they've done a contact player caught you off guard, you can drop back and try and use a defensive piece of utility to keep yourself alive. Something like this gives you a lot of room to play around, and it makes it very hard for the enemy team to push you. If the T's are trying to push in here, they have to deal with these two wide angles, and you could be taking a gunfight here where you're just fighting this guy, and anyone here can't see you at all. Like, they can't see you behind the smoke. It makes it very hard to play around. You can try and just hide at the back of sight in quad without a smoke, but that makes this angle a lot easier to cover. So, for example, if you have a T here, and one T pushing up and one T at the back, this guy can pretty effectively hold these two angles while it's happening, and it's quite easy for people to circulate on your position like this. Now, if you don't feel comfortable holding the site, you can play retake. For example, on B, I might play retake by jiggling in CT and expecting to see them here, and then when they come in, they'll smoke me off in CT, and I'll just have to go around to coffins or around to CT and try and play around like this. Not specifically holding the site, but just trying to delay them a little bit. This is a lot safer than being on the site because it's unlikely that they're going to be able to push me and kill me compared to if I'm playing on the site like this and really hard committing. You don't have to hard commit or soft commit all the time. It's best to mix up these two things so that you can catch the T's off guard. So for example, if you're playing over here all the time, they're going to just disrespect you and they'll throw the CT smoke and do a fast flash and just scale up really quickly. But if you throw in a few rounds where you're playing an off angle here, like on Fountain, they're going to have to respect that. So they're going to have to throw a high flash up here while coming out and things like that. But they have to respect both things. So they'll have to smoke CT to begin with, and then they'll throw this flash, and it gives you a lot more room to maneuver, and it stops the T's from being able to punish what you're doing in particular. When you're playing as an anchor player, you need to be prepared for the main two scenarios that are going to face you. These are going to be execs and contact plays. For example, if I play on B on Inferno, I normally like to play CT spot here. And if I see players around here, I'll throw a smoke like this. That might have missed. This is fine. I can get out in front of this smoke and play quite safely around here without them being able to spam me. It's a bit of a back and forth game, but it really delays them. And also, if I stand here specifically around this central area, it's really hard for them to jump around the smoke. If I play in here, they can kind of get out the smoke and like shoot me because they know where I am. But if I get wide, it helps me out. If they're a bit faster up, I can try and throw a Molotov and then hold from here. The perfect thing that I would have is a smoke and then a Molotov. But that's just really if they're sending it through with util. This is how I deal with a contact player and exec play from this position because I'm pushed up with info. But if I'm back here, for example, and I'm playing anti-exec or anti-contact, the way that the players are going to walk up is going to be quite fast, so I won't have time to throw a util, right? So if I see a player here and I try and I kill him, I try and stand up and throw a smoke, his teammate's going to be right here and just shoot me, right? So I need to be able to adapt what I'm doing with my position to how I'm going to see things. So if I'm playing in this position, when I'm waiting for contact plays, I'm going to be just holding this angle, getting the kill, maybe repositioning to this side, shooting another, and trying to go for a 2-for-1 is going to be beneficial in this scenario. But if I see util flying over, then I'll try and fall back to a position where I can throw a smoke. This is a nice lineup for a banana smoke, or a top banana smoke, or I can try and throw a Molotov, you know, something around here that makes it really hard for them to push in. Sometimes I just like to go here and throw this flash, which makes it really hard for them to push in past this angle, because while they're coming up and trying to shoot me on sight, they're all getting blinded by this, and it doesn't blind me at all. Just delaying them slightly when you get that initial contact or their initial entry timings, it really messes up, even if they're just running out, it really messes up their flash timings, so it's quite hard for them to get advantageous duels when they're execing. Disrupting them in these ways, which are specific to each scenario, so with the exec, they'll be further back, so I don't need to worry about these instant gunfights. but with the contact play, they'll be right there, so I'll have to worry about the gunfights. Addressing these things in your head before they happen is going to set you up really well for success when these eventualities come around. As a site anchor, communication is going to be key to your role. Because in the examples that we outlined, your team is going to be stacked towards the other side of the map. They're going to be having only info on that side, and they're not going to have any info on your side. You need to be the key focal point that's going to be explaining exactly what's happening on this side of the map and painting the picture for your IGL and the rest of your teammates to see if they need to rotate. That means that you need to be extremely accurate with the stuff that you're saying. So if you see two players, you say you see two players. You see two smokes, you see two smokes. Two smokes means two players if they come at the same time. If they're delayed and you see one smoke and then one smoke like 3 seconds later, it could be one player because they can drop util. If you can say these things and represent them accurately, it gives the rest of your team a better picture as to what's going on, and it will set your team up better for success. Also, you can take this into account by taking more liberties with how pushed up you're going to play, right? So, for example, if I play on B and if I'm playing on coffins, I might not be able to hear someone on top banana, but if I'm playing up here instead, with an off angle like this, I'll be able to hear a lot more closer up. Also, if I spot for some info around here, then I'll be able to do things like this, but that's a bit more risky, and we can go into that later. But considering the information side of things when you're playing is really important because it will set up your team best to be able to manage their rotations because you're already in an awkward rotation scenario. Building on this idea about rotations, one last thing is going to be about active CT sides. So generally when you do these stacks, ideally your team is not just going to be stagnant on the other side of the map. They're not going to be playing in a static way where they'll just be waiting for them to push into A, because that is a full gamble stack. And unless you have a really good read, then that's not great. Even if you do have a good read, sometimes the teams can go back and then, you know, they'll put a lot of presence towards A and then they'll shift back towards B. One of the best things your team can do when they have multiple players towards one side is doing an info push on this side of the map. So let's say they push into apps with 2 players, or they push up to brackets and reflash into this area. So you can have a player from pit in this example flashing like this. This flash might miss. Flash landed. His teammates up here. He peeks into boiler. He peeks into mid. They have the info that this is clear. As soon as that happens, they can relay the info to you, and then you can use your defensive util in advance, and they can rotate back over. You can't take as many liberties as they can because they have 3 guys. They can afford to lose one if they do an info play into mid. But if you do an info play into banana and you die here, everyone else on the other side of the map, Inferno is extremely punishing for this. Your team will just have to save because this round will be over. They'll already have the site. Even if they take a few seconds trying to clear out the rest of the players, like, it's extremely hard for them to rotate. But if you should really be relying on the rest of your team to be doing this kind of thing and being active on the other side of the map where they have more players. And if you're playing as an anchor, I want you to be telling your teammates to be doing that kind of stuff because it's going to make your life and their lives a whole lot easier. Okay, so your goal as a site anchor is to maximize your team's chances of winning the round. To do this, you really want to be delaying the enemy team entering your site, either by using utility and choke points, smokes and molotovs, or using a smoke defensively to keep yourself alive. Throughout the half, you need to be switching up your positions, and in each position, you need to be preparing for the eventuality of a contact play or an exec, and making sure that you have contingency plans in place for whatever happens with both of those scenarios. Also, while you're anchoring, you need to be communicating the information that you're getting on your side of the map to the other side of the map so your team can make good decisions. And then finally, you want your team on the other side of the map to be gaining info to help you out in your position so that you feel less isolated on your side of the map. So that's been me for this video. I hope that you found this useful and exciting. There should be more videos over here, but if you've got any feedback or like the video, please leave a comment down below. Thanks. Bye.